Okay, Darren here under yet another gorgeous day in sunny Southern California. Today's high 76. Gotta love it. Clear skies. And this one goes out to you, Sean Cody, because I just got off the computer reading an email from you and I just don't have enough time to do everything. So I did do a product review today. I'm back from it, so I'm applying this introduction at the beginning, even though I've already done it officially. So I've got three products. And they go from, well, there's three stages and there's price points. So we go from least expensive, middle of the road, to most expensive. And what I have here is Meguiar's Ultimate Paste Wax. Now I'm a huge fan because in my opinion, it represents the winning combination for many of you because it's priced very reasonable. It's an excellent product. It covers well. It's easy to apply. It's easy to take off. But did it win the battle? No, it did not. But when you consider how much this costs in relation to these, to you, it may be a no-brainer. My second choice is Pinnacle, part of the Signature Series 2. Excellent product. It's middle of the road as far as the price point goes. And then we have the top as far as price point, very expensive, Fusion, what do they call it, Wolfgang Concourse Series. Notice I only got the 3-ounce size. All these products go a long way. It's a very long video. There's lots of information. I don't do it just so I can hear myself drone on. It's just that there's so much information to cover so that you guys can become educated and informed consumers or detailers or hobbyists, enthusiasts, whatever. So we'll go out on location. I'm going to be working on a badass black Turbo S convertible Porsche. You've seen it before anyhow, so I could make endless videos just on the subject of wax alone. So I do cover a lot of information. Fast forward it, pause it, do whatever you want. Now, as a note, I talk about always look in the description box. And I'm also going to mention another person's name, Eric Welch. I had a great conversation with him. A very gracious guy that I met through the internet on my website. So I talk a little bit about that moment. But below the video, you're watching the video on YouTube, below it will say show more. Click on that show more, it will open up, and that's where you will find links to my website that helps support my cause. Anytime you do some shopping from my website first and you click on any link, I get paid a little bit of a commission. Excuse me, just had a little bit of lunch. So I get a little bit of a commission, whether it's Amazon and AutoGeek, whatever, it populates into another window. So thank you in advance, but always look in that show more, click on it so you can see the different detailed links that go to my website. And then once you're at my website, then you can go shopping if you want, read the comprehensive review, so on and so forth. So I'm covering a lot today. Pause it, come back, whatever, take it in bite-sized chunks, whatever works for you. So let's get going. Okay, I've got my three waxes here. We've got Wolfgang Fusion, spelled with a Z. We've got my Meguiar's Ultimate Paste Wax, what I would refer to as my economical workhorse, staple type of wax product. And then we've got Pinnacle Signature Series 2, part of their Pinnacle Natural Brilliance line. Okay, so these are all wax products that I recommend. What I wanted to do is a comparison because I had someone write in and ask a very legitimate question. Is this wax that costs the most out of all these waxes, is it really worth the money? Well, that's where value and price come in, and hopefully if you've watched enough of my videos, you're learning the difference between shopping price and shopping value. Value is going to be subjective, which means it's all personal. What do you as a person value? What is your sequence of value? It's called a hierarchy. What is at the very top? So for example, you could get a detailer And let's say you say to them, hey, what's the best wax? Well, that question in and of itself is a gross oversimplification that drives me crazy. It's like, well, best, you defined best for me, and then I'll answer your question. So when you say best, do you mean best protection, best visual enhancement, best as an easy to use, best at staining black trim, best at getting or being the hardest to take off, or maybe best at easiest to take off? What do you mean by best? And so it's such a loaded question. It just drives me crazy, and there's so many labels and terminology that's used in the industry that just spin me out of control. It makes blood want to shoot out of my eyes out of frustration. And a big part of that frustration is because I know beginners will hear this stuff, these opinions that are regurgitated on the forums, and people like to use these over dramatized words all in the name of what I call detailing theater. So they sound cool, they appear like the expert, the biggest expert in the room, but the reality is newbies, beginners, whatever, they read it and they think, oh, that sounds like it makes sense. It sounds cool. I guess that's the right way to do it, or that's the best product. And then they read another opinion that contradicts the first opinion perhaps, or that is just a different opinion, and they're like, well, wait, that sounds good too. Well, which is it? Which wax is best? Only you can decide that, but it's going to be based on so many variables. So with that, the good news is that there's so many good products out there. You literally could pretty much close your eyes, take a dartboard with all the different waxes and polishes labeled on the dartboard, and just throw the dart, and whatever it lands on, just go with it, okay? Because along the way, you're going to learn more, you're going to change your opinion, you're going to start becoming educated and informed, and you're going to start forming your own opinion. This is what's called critical thinking and adjusting your value system. So part of why I drone on a lot, which people love to accuse me of, is to teach newbies, whether you want to get into the business or whether you just want to learn how to take care of your car. Like an Eric Welch, I talked to today. So I'll dedicate this video to you, Eric. Great conversation. Guy just bought a brand new Dodge, badass car, one of my favorite as far as American iron muscle cars go. He actually does video editing and production for commercials, the music industry. Very cool work. In fact, I'll include a link for you, Eric, in the description box. And as a side note, I checked, it actually doesn't say description box. If you look underneath the video window player, it will say show more. If you click on show more, that window will open up further and you'll see all my links. So always check that area, the show more area. It will include links specifically to my website. That's how I help supplement my income. Whenever you go shopping on my website and you click on the little banner or the little links and it opens up into AutoGeek or Amazon, I get a little bit of a commission, so thank you in advance. So back to this. What is the best wax? Well, define best, and then I'll tell you what the best wax is. So with modern day chemical engineering, there is just so many good products. That's both the good news and the bad news. The good news is because there's so many products, you don't know where to begin. So after a few months or a few years, you go out in your garage and you got a whole garage shelf full of product after product, and here you are still looking for the best wax. Well, the bad news is, or was that the good news? See how confusing it is? Which is it? And ultimately, it's what I call information overload. We have so much information. It's called the internet. Endless opinions. What's the best? What's the greatest? So let me simplify it at certain foundational levels. Wax. And when I say wax, this could mean natural carnauba-based formulations, synthetic. Wax is anything that does not have any form of abrasives in it and does not have any kind of chemical cleaners in it. So wax is for two reasons: protection from the elements of weather and whatever, and visual enhancement. That is wax. That's what wax is for. Everything past that is a different discussion. Paint correction, paint enhancement, and I don't mean through wax, but through polishing. That's completely different discussion. So what is the best wax? Well, it depends on what you want and best. If you're a detailer and you're just working on a budget and you just want it to look good and you know your audience isn't overly critical, chances are you're going to go with a cheaper wax. And by cheaper, does that mean that it can perform at a lesser level? Not necessarily, but it costs less, so it's cheaper. But let's say you're an enthusiast and you buy into the whole, you generally get what you pay for, which I believe that is very true. You generally get what you pay for. The more you pay for it, generally you're going to get more of whatever that is. More performance, a more user-friendly experience, whatever. But there's this, it's called the law of diminishing returns, cost-benefit analysis. So eventually, if something costs significantly more, at what point, it's like that bell curve, at what point do the benefits start leveling off or even dropping down based on the cost? So like this fusion wax, it's very expensive, and I bought just the small version, which is probably like a 3-ounce size, still very expensive. So I'm going to use it, and maybe it delivers a superior user-friendly experience. Goes on easy, I have to use very little of it, comes off easy. I can use it both in the shade and in the sun. As a mobile detailer, that's important to me. And it visually enhance it like no other. Now, as far as protection, that's just an endless can of worms. You know, I mean, you can read study after study, opinion after opinion, and they'll all talk about, oh, it will protect against acid rain or bird droppings or fallout, or go down the list. Well, unfortunately, people misrepresent, and they act as though it's going to create this impervious layer on your car paint that's going to literally, it's like this, like Batman's shield, you know, that nothing can penetrate it. Well, that's just false, okay? Hey, pool guys, go ahead. Don't worry about it. You can flex on the way through. Hey, Chris.
How's it going?
Good. So that's a little misleading in my opinion. So protection, I'm not even going to get into, because I like the saying. There's a very familiar adage, at least in my world, which says, "Numbers never lie, but liars always use numbers." And what that means is that you can manipulate the numbers so that whatever outcome you want to happen, you can get that to happen by manipulating the numbers. And that's where you get these reports or these analysis, or go down the list, these poll numbers. It's like, well, I can take a poll. If I ask the right question, I can get the answer that I want from that question. So I could say simply, what's the best wax? And I can use all 3 of these waxes and line up 100 people and say, okay, based on appearances, what is the best wax? And they all decide that it's this one. So I could walk away and say, okay, test studies prove that 99 out of 100 people claim that this wax is the best. It's like those toothpaste commercials. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest for better oral hygiene or whatever. It's like jack-off sign. It's like, well, what dentist did they ask? What did they pay those dentists? What's the dentist's agenda? I mean, it's just makes my head want to spin. So there's our big lesson on wax. Visual enhancement and protection. I don't overthink the protection, because you're going to get a different answer every time you ask someone. People claim that the ultimate is a carnauba-based wax. The ultimate is a synthetic sealant. What's the difference between a sealant and a wax? Well, as a general rule, wax will refer to a carnauba-based paste version. that is usually what people in the industry will refer to as a wax product. Sealants are usually referred to as a synthetic liquid or spray version or type of sealant or wax product. Unfortunately, people constantly interchange and commingle both terms. Wax, sealant, what are we talking about? There is a difference. But with today, we have hybrids, which means it's both. You can't put carnauba wax on your paint in its natural form. They have to process it with synthetic chemicals. So therefore, could you not say that that's truly not a natural product, even though it's called 100% natural carnauba, or carnauba number 2, which is the highest grade, or carnauba number 1, or carnauba yellow wax, or carnauba white wax from Brazil? I mean, there's just so much hype and BS in the industry, it drives me crazy. So I don't spend personally too much time thinking about it when it comes to using it. I only get spun out when I think about other people trying to enter the world and then have to decipher all this information, just endless opinions. That's what drives me crazy. So I'm going to do 3 different panels. I'm going to take you along for the ride, show you the application, blah, 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 and hopefully you'll go away more informed and you can make an informed decision for yourself. That is the key. So here's an up-close look. We got Pinnacle Signature Series 2, Meguiar's Ultimate Paste Wax, which if you look says pure synthetic polymer, which in itself is kind of redundant because polymers, to my understanding, is going to be synthetic anyways. Then we have Wolfgang Fusion with a Z, Wolfgang Concourse Series. That sounds dramatic. Concourse, woo, that must be special. Yes, that's me mocking. Does that mean that these aren't good products? No, it doesn't. That's just me with my twisted sense of humor. Okay, here's my distilled water and rubbing alcohol solution. I carry it with me. It's a good way to pre-clean and make sure all waxes, greases, oils, sealants, whatever is removed from the surface. It's 50-50 blend. I actually wiped this panel down twice to be very thorough in the removal. Something that you need to know, and this is very significant, and this is part of why I spend this much time talking to people, especially you beginning detailers, so you can learn how to talk to your own customer, because you will have to become a voice of reason to your customers. Why? Because there's so much ignorance out there, and you will have some very ignorant people. And as an added note, just because a guy can afford a $300,000 car doesn't mean he has a critical eye. It's just like it's like a sports car. You buy the most expensive, highest performance Ferrari. Well, driving skills doesn't come with it, okay? That doesn't mean the guy knows how to drive it. He just knows how to buy it or how to make the money so he can buy it. Same thing with cars. So the biggest factor to me with wax is not necessarily the wax itself, it's the surface you're putting the wax on. So, and I talk about this in another video. So if your canvas sucks, the best wax in the world isn't going to fix it. It will improve it, and some waxes will improve it better visually. They'll be able to cover up the imperfections or the blemishes better than another wax perhaps. But the biggest factor is how perfect, I hate that word perfect because that's so relative. How perfect is the surface initially before you apply the wax? So to do a true direct side-by-side comparison at a level is almost kind of irrelevant. So you just have to apply context to it, which means it's still limited in its assessment, okay? So accept that, it's still limited, and understanding your limitations is very important. It's much easier to understand benefits, much harder to understand the limitations. So everything comes with a certain amount of limitations, and this is going back to the cost-benefit analysis. What will this benefit cost me? Is this benefit actually a benefit in my world, or is it not? Do I not care about it? And that's your value system. I know I'm throwing a lot at you guys. So this has been prepared. I'm going to whip out these different waxes. I'm going to do section by section. We'll do a side by side in the sun. I'm going to follow the manufacturer's directions, which is always applied to a cool, dry, clean surface. Okay, in the world of auto detailing as a mobile guy, I want a product that can perform in the sun also, because I don't like to whip out a canopy every time. So I'm going to follow their directions, apply it, and we'll just come along. How about that? So first example, Wolfgang Fusion. This is what it looks like when you open it. This is the applicator it comes with. It's just a very standard foam synthetic applicator. You know, rub it on. There's different types of, let's see if I section this off. I'm going to go right down here, just like that. And then I'm going to take this to the right. Now, something you'll hear in the forums is, oh, never go in a circular pattern because it's going to create swirl marks. I always go back and forth in a horizontal, that way I don't create swirl marks. Well, guess what? If that really was the case, if I could create swirl marks doing this, could I not make horizontal marks going like that? So that's irrelevant, okay? Because if this is strictly a wax product, it has no cleaners in it, no abrasives in it. The only way you're going to add swirl marks is if your applicator sucks, or if it's dirty, or something like that. Or if the rag that you take it off with is abrasive enough to put swirl marks in it. So that's just another one of those things you'll hear on the forums. It's like, oh, I would never do that. Only hacks do that. I always go back and forth. It's like, you know what? Once again, jack off sign. So I'm going to apply that. And also you have, another note is what's called wipe on, wipe off. So this lettering is so small. There says directions, wash vehicle thoroughly. Duh. You mean you don't want me to put it straight over the dirt? For superior results, use Wolfgang Paintwork Polish Enhancer to prep the paint. Well, I already talked about that my canvas is really more significant than the wax itself as far as visual enhancement. I like to use the analogy of a surfer. You can take the most winning pro surfer in the world and put him out in the surf where the surf sucks, and he's worthless. He can't do something from nothing. If he's out there in some ankle slappers, I don't care how good he is, he's still going to suck because the waves suck. So if your paint sucks and it hasn't been prepped right or polished and there's all these imperfections, yes, it will look better, but it's still going to suck at a level. Okay. Apply a thin coat with a clean foam or microfiber applicator to one panel at a time. The wax does not need to dry. Wipe off wax with a soft, clean microfiber towel, flip towel, and buff to a brilliant shine. So this, because it does not haze up like white, like if you got a turtle wax, which I do not recommend, by the way, it will haze up to a chalky white. You wipe it off and you have dust everywhere. So this is what's called a wow. Wipe on, wipe off. You don't have to let it haze up. Okay? But with that said, if I leave it on here, and that's another thing. I mean, this video is going to be so stinking long. That's another thing. People talk about like, oh, I've got to let this wax cure and bond to the surface. Okay, is that true with some products? Maybe, okay, but how would you verify that? Honestly, how would you verify that? I don't know how I would. So once again, unless the directions specifically say that, which I don't trust these companies overall, does that mean that they don't make good products? No, it doesn't. It just means that I don't trust marketing and advertising as a general rule. You have to be very hypercritical about it and really look at the words that they use to describe products. There's a lot of hype. So people say like, oh, I'm going to leave the wax on overnight and that way it'll work better and it'll last longer. I don't know if it will or not. I'm not going to overthink about it. In the real world of professional detailing, that's unrealistic. What are you going to do? Show up the next day after it sat on the paint for 24 hours and take it off? Hell no. It's just not going to happen. Not unless you're in some high-end boutique type of shop where you're charging $1,200 for a detail. That's not my world. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to use the same applicator, but you'll notice I've only used half of it, okay? So I'm going to use this other half that is undefiled and virgin. This is what this looks like. Now let me read the directions. Oh, here's a warning because it contains refined mineral spirits which are harmful and been known to cause cancer in certain case studies. Directions: wash car first. Work in a shaded area to achieve the ultimate shine. Prepare the paint surface with of course, they want you to buy more product. But there is some truth to that because I talked about if your paint sucks, your wax is only going to be able to perform so well anyways. Apply a thin coat of wax to one section at a time. It is not necessary to wait for the wax to fully haze over. Buff to a high gloss with a microfiber cloth, turn cloth over. Contains at least 25 wax applications per tub. Okay, 25 out of a tub this size, to me, it should be more like 150. Because as a general rule, any newbie, you will think more is better. Society has been groomed to think more is always better. Well, as I like to say, sometimes more is just that, more. And sometimes more means more work, more waste. Okay, so more sometimes is just more. So as a rule, you will tend to want to overthink it. Now I'm going to leave a little line. Okay, that's my little sound effects. A little line. See that is too much wax right there. So I really don't need to apply more wax. Now both these waxes are what are called non-staining formulations. They are meant to not stain black vinyl trim. But with that, I'm still going to keep it off. The only time I use wax directly over black vinyl trim is on spray waxes. So I'm going to make sure I have good coverage. And to me, the amount of wax that is coming off, I could do this whole panel with the wax that is there because to me it's thicker than it really needs to be. So there's that product. Now we have Meguiar's Ultimate Quick Wax. See how it's cracked? That's because I actually use this and I've had this around for a long time. This is a good all-around wax. It's very economical. It performs very good. And I guess if I had my agenda as my best interest, I'd be pushing that fusion wax onto you because it's way more expensive and therefore I would get paid more of a commission if you bought it through my website. But I just want to keep it real. And I want to know myself, and I'm going to switch this pad. I'm going to switch it over to the virgin side for this one too. And I'm going to use it. I'm going to create a line here because I want a line of demarcation on every wax product I use so that I can put this in the sun, take it off, view my results, and have a virgin strip in between so that we can see the difference. Okay? And this, just one little swipe of this cloth or this applicator pad is enough to do this whole panel. Okay, so let's read the directions of this. For glossy paint finishes only. In other words, the new matte finishes, these products are not for those. by hand. Using the included applicator, spread a thin, even coat over the entire vehicle. A second pass is recommended to ensure complete coverage. Let product dry to a haze. The reason I hesitate is not because I can't read, it's because my eyesight. I have contacts in, but it's that winning combination. I can see from about right here to about 30 feet is the ideal sweet spot, but when I get this close, totally blurry, and that's why I need to put on the readers. Let product dry to a haze, then remove with the Meguiar Supreme Shine microfiber towel. Turn to a clean portion of the towel for the final wipe. Okay, this doesn't actually say that it's a wipe on, wipe off, but I know that it is. But this says keep off vinyl, plastic, rubber, and other porous materials. So this truly will stain black trim. And so that's where you have to be careful and not get it on the black trim. So overall, as far as application, I would rate these two products superior as far as ease of application. I noticed that when I did the Meguiar's Ultimate Quick Wax, let me see if that's showing. Yep. When I did the Ultimate Quick Wax over here, it did not glide, and it did not, it wasn't as silky smooth. How about that? There was more resistance. It kind of wanted to cake up a little bit. So that's the application. The coverage is easy. It certainly goes a long way. It goes a lot longer than most of you would think. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fresh microfiber cloth, which is right here. And yes, guess what? I get these at Costco. Okay, that's a whole nother discussion. The simplified version is that when I'm working on a car this pristine, I like a virgin, never touched, never soiled, never washed microfiber. Are these the best? There's that word again. No, they're not. Okay, they're cheap and they work. And I could take the best, most expensive microfiber, and if I wanted to, I could scratch the paint with it. Just as I could scratch the paint with this if I wanted to. But the opposite is also true. I can use it and not scratch the paint because I don't want to scratch the paint. So I only use virgin microfibers for this level of work. Once it's been washed, then it gets graduated down the scale of use. Now it becomes a cleaning cloth or whatever. And because I use them disposably at a level, I don't need to overpay for them, okay? And I don't need to pick the best, most expensive microfiber, because once you wash them, I don't care how careful you are, they automatically begin to degrade, and they're just not as user-friendly, and they will start leaving little fine particles. This won't do that. So what I'm going to do, I started here first. I'm going to now take this off, and my initial response is pretty darn impressive. And I don't mean visually, because we're in the shade, so virtually on this car, everything's going to look good. But as far as taking it off, I'm now being redundant. I'm wiping and wiping, but it's not because I have to. It's just I want to be thorough, because every time you change lighting, you're going to see something else. That came off like super duper easy. Not easy, but super duper. How does it feel? I just put a smudge on it. Feels like a waxed panel, okay? Nothing special. Now I'm going to flip this over and take this off. Now if I had to rate them, I would rate that as a 10. This is a 9.7, okay? Most expensive, middle of the road, least expensive. A 10 as far as application and removal. A 10 as far as application, a 9.7 as far as removal. Not quite as easy, but honestly, any beginner would never be able to discern the difference. Now I'm going to flip this over so I don't commingle the waxes. And now I've got the Meguiar's Ultimate Paste Wax. This I would give a 9. Okay? So the least expensive wax, as far as application, I'm going to give a 9. It was still very user-friendly. Removal, still very user-friendly. So this gets a 9. A 10 for application, 9.7 for removal. This one, 10 for application, 10 for removal. Now let's go to the visual the visual inspection and see what we have. Okay, see how difficult this is? I'm in the direct sunlight, and that panel probably looks perfect to all of you. And I had the Fusion over here, the Pinnacle, and the Meguiar's over here. And yet, you can't really tell. Now, because I'm here live, what I can tell you is that these two panels are superior looking to the Meguiar's. Now, for most people, they would literally have to stand here and figure out and go, wow, let me think, is it that better? Is that better? Is that better? Let me stand back here. It's like, if you have to look that hard, to me that's an indicator of something. Now what I do notice that with the Meguiar's Ultimate Quick Wax, and by the way, Meguiar's Ultimate Paste Wax, I'm a huge fan, because to me, for people on a budget and they're willing to trade off a certain amount of user-friendly experience, that represents a winning combination. But as far as everything else, these other wax products, yes, they are superior in my opinion. As far as the user experience, and the fact is that they removed so cleanly. I had to go back over that a third time in order to remove it 100%. And when I say remove, the initial wax is off, but there's still like almost like a greasy mark to it. And if you've ever waxed a black car, you'll know what I mean. So I had to go back over that for complete uniformed appearance. These two products, I did not have to do it. All I did was remove it, as you saw in the when I first did it, and now in the direct sunlight, it's just done. You know, is that paint perfect? No, it's not. I could make it like right now. That paint, I would put it at about a 9.5. And that's another thing. What do you mean by perfect paint? Well, there's a certain amount of orange peel in this paint. There's still a little bit of spider webbing effect. So to make it truly flawless, I would have to sand it flat, polish out my sanding marks, and then it would be truly flawless paint. We are not there yet. Right now it's at a 9.5 is how I would rate it. But so if you're willing to spend the money, yes, these two products, I would say, perform better overall. But for the money, the cost benefit analysis, is this wax over here worth 4, 5, 6 times that wax? That's very debatable. I also put the same 3 waxes here. I've left it on. I'm going to reposition this car, and I'm going to show you the takeoff on this as far as me taking it off. And we'll see if we can tell at a different angle and different lighting. Okay, just like before, 1, 2, 3, same sequence from right to left. Okay, we have Fusion over here to the far right. We have Pinnacle Natural Brilliance here in the middle. We have Meguiar's Ultimate Paste Wax on the far left. They're still on the car. Whether this shows up or not, I cannot say, but they're there. So I'm going to take my microfiber cloth. I'm going to use the section that has been undefiled and is virgin, and I'm going to remove. Now I'm also in the direct sunlight, and this paint is starting to heat up. but it's not overly hot today. And welcome to California yet again, because today's high is going to be about 76 degrees. There's just a very light haze of clouds in the sky. So you gotta love wintertime in California. The trade-off is that we live in perpetual or chronic drought mode. So there's the Meguiar's Ultimate, and I'm going to take you at this angle because you can see it better. But this, excellent wax, thumbs up. Now let's go with this one. Oh great. Johnny Lawnmower is next door. Sorry about that noise. Hopefully my voice is still coming loud and clear. Okay, easy to remove, even in the direct sunlight. Rotate my cloth. Okay, I think I know what my favorite wax is. And this is based on that money is not an issue. This is a little chip in the paint right there. That's not a piece of lint. I would say that this wax, which is the fusion wax, has come out at the top. Easier to remove. I'm looking at it in different angles. Hopefully. Let's see if it'll show. Boy, I wish I was doing an HD, but anyhow. And this is part of my point, is that if we have to dip and turn and crouch and look at it at different angles to try to discern a difference, in a large way, that's the good news, because all three products performed so well. But here in live, in the three-dimensional world, I'm going to rate the Fusion as the absolute top within these three waxes. The question for you, is it going to be worth it to you? And I'm not even addressing durability, because who knows? And just because, by the way, folks, just because wax will bead, or I'm sorry, just because water will bead on your paint does not mean there's still wax protection there, okay? I can clay bar a paint surface and use all kinds of alcohol on it, and the wax, or I'm sorry, the water will still bead, okay? So when people say that, oh, my paint's so beaded up after 50 washes, well, that's only part of the information, because water will still bead up on paint that's perfectly smooth and has no wax or sealant on it, and that has to do with the whole you know, water's an amazing thing. We've got capillary effects, we've got adhesion effects, so that's a whole nother topic. Anyhow, so there's my assessment. I'm going to rate them essentially based on price, because that's what I found out is, to me, the most bang for your buck is going to be Meguiar's Ultimate Paste Wax. Pinnacle Signature Series 2 came in second place. Fusion definitely came in first place, but it's also the most expensive, and it progresses downward from there. Only you can decide what you value most. Hopefully this will show you some real-world demonstration, but if you pull back, and this is where I try to teach my own customers, it's like, hey, Mr. Customer, if you have to go in this close and try to figure out what's going on, how many people are going to look at your car like that? They're not. They're going to see it driving from a distance. They're going to walk around it and go, oh my gosh, what a badass ride. This thing looks amazing. That's reality, okay? That's appropriate reality. So you can take that for what you want, whether it's the good news or the bad news. And until next time, I think I have worn you out. I know I am worn out. Okay, I promise this is it. As an added note, I just finished waxing the rest of this car, and I gotta tell you, don't underestimate the user experience. That can make or break your world, especially going down the road. It's kind of like working out. It's like, oh my gosh, if you don't accept that it's gonna be uncomfortable, then you're never gonna get there. So with the right tool really can make or break your world. So this part of this is the right tool. It's so easy to use and take off, where it's like, wow. Even though it's hard to discern the visual results at the end, I am much more inclined to use this product because I know it's that easy to use. And if I want protection on my car and I want it to look great, I don't want to think about waxing my car and go, oh yeah, but that wax, it's such a pain in the ass to use. So that's another variable that really is significant. And when you're like a quarter of the way through the car, trust me, you will appreciate the user-friendly experience where it's like, oh my gosh, I will happily pay $50 more or whatever it is for this wax, because this wax I'm currently using just sucks compared to something like this. So I just want to add that because I finished waxing it, and it's just like, man, this wax really is easy to take on and take off, and the visual enhancement, thumbs up.